the local community. That's my PTSD. In real life, my neighbors Al and Jerry have abduct me from my house, set up rape scenarios and abductions. They helped the perverts get away. They showed the women and children in my community. The police do not really help perverts who are willing to rape your women and children. How do I get over that PTSD when the police are willing to help people like that get away?
It's almost impossible to say. There's no real way to do it.
No, my wife is mad at me. In this repeated Fibonacci, my wife is mad at me. She called the police. And I told her, the police can come get me, but all they're doing is showing the local women and children from Children of the Night and the Genesis Project. They help perverts and pedophiles get away. When the police come get me and abduct me because I'm having PTSD from real life situations, from perverts and pedophiles setting up situations so they can rape and pedophile women and children, when they help those situations, what does that do? What does that do for my psychology when the local authority is willing to help those perverts and pedophiles cover up the situation?
It ruins it. It makes it in a negative state.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm venting. I'm like, the first time she called and they were willing to cover up the situation, they came. The second and third time, I freaked out. Once they realized I was on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and WhatsApp and all of these social media, they didn't come. So I'm like, what does that show the world? Once they realized this information was public, they were no longer willing to help the perverts and pedophiles get away. Once they realized the public was watching, they stopped helping the perverts and pedophiles. What does that show the women and children who are put in these, does that make sense?
Martin, if you're having a bit of your, I suggest you call crisis hotline.
Well, I
It's
want you to think about this.
it's mainly
You
for
want me to,
teenagers.
I want you to think about this. I call the mobile crisis hotline, and in real life, they're set up to help the pedophiles and perverts get away. What does that do for me? My job, I have an international background check to protect women and children who are in a situation where they're sexually exploited. What does that do for me? Calling a hotline that is set up to protect perverts and pedophiles. What does that do for me? As the person who protects women and children, I'm fucked. My life is going down the drain. Does that make sense? Right? You want me to call a hotline that is set up to contact the perverts and pedophiles who are exploiting these women and children.
Looks like I'm not calling them again.
I'm not trying to be rude, but and I'm not
Oh
trying
no,
to be mean.
I fully understand.
Yeah, what does that do for
But
me as a person who's had a federal and background check to help sexually exploited women and children? What does it do for me to call a hotline who's set up to protect the men who sexually exploit women and children? What does that do for me? It sets me up for murder, homicide, right? It sets me up to have my life destroyed. What have the women and children witnessed in my life happen when I called the crisis lines that they are told to contact? Destruction, deterioration, the loss of existence. You know what I mean? It's a very, very tough place for me to be. My wife and people in my life believe you can contact the authority. You can contact these crisis lines who are literally set up to protect the perverts and pedophiles who put these children in those situations. Now, you can contact Children of the Night, the Genesis Project, who are set up to protect these children. But they're the last line of resort. Nobody ever contacts them. You know what I mean? Nobody ever contacts them. So I'm here in a repetitive situation, having a meltdown, hollering at my wife. You contact these men in real life who help these children get sexually exploited. That's their goal. They don't ever want to be caught. Right? If you don't want to be caught, you align yourselves with the crisis hotline, right? The resources these women and children need. If you don't want to be caught as a male who's exploiting these women and children, who do you call? Who do you become a member of? Right? These crisis hotlines. You're the first line of resources. The child that I'm sexually exploiting called the resource hotline that relied on me, who's sexually exploiting the child. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And my wife, I'm freaking out again at my wife. Stop relying on these men and these crisis hotlines that are set up to sexually exploit children. My wife and the people in my life have fallen victim to the situation set up by perverts and pedophiles that know how to game the system. If I'm a pervert and pedophile, I know I can set myself up as the contact for a crisis hotline. So when you call, I get the call. When you need a resource, I'm the resource. When you need a lending hand, I'm the lending hand. Where does that leave you? Nowhere to turn. Hopeless. Exactly. And that's where I'm at today. I'm just in this repetitive situation with my neighbors and people in my community who don't realize men who sexually exploit women and children are the resources sexually exploited women and children turn to. They made them. I mean, you think about that. If you're going to sexually exploit a woman or a child, are you going to make sure that you're the resource they call to make sure you don't get in trouble?
Yes, you will. You'll find any avenue to be innocent.
Exactly. Right? Right? So if you were a sexually exploited boy forced to go into prostitution and you called a resource hotline, you would call me, the male who's paying to sexually exploit you. What avenue does that leave you? Nowhere. You're stuck. Right? And my neighbors in my community make sure women and children know there's nowhere to turn to. And that's very sad for me. I have freakouts. I have meltdowns. I mean, I scream. Like I told my wife earlier to call the fucking police. I don't care. What are they going to do? When I publicly announce the police are willing to help the perverts and pedophiles, what are they going to do? Right? When perverts and pedophiles know they can turn to the police to help protect them, when they can turn to the local authority to help cover up who they are, where does that leave it doesn't matter where you're coming from. What matters is where the children is and the women that are in those situations are, if that makes sense. It doesn't matter where I'm coming from, where they're coming from. All that matters is the person in that situation. And the person in that situation knows you can't count on the police, you can't count on the FBI, and you can't count on the local authority because they are the people who are paying to have sex with you. That's a very scary situation for a child. If you know the women who are, or the men who are paying to have sex with you are the local authority, where does that leave you?
Nowhere to turn.
Exactly. And isn't that what those men want?
Yes, so that they can continue to exploit you
Right?
and, degrade your brain.
Exactly. If Al
And
and
then,
Jerry and people in my community know, you're going to turn to the local authority, and the local authority will help protect me so I can continue to sexually exploit you. You have nowhere to turn. I can continue to use your body for money. And that it makes me cry. It gives me massive amounts of anxiety. I freak out. I scream. I have autism, right? I literally, I've been lifting my kettlebell. I've been running for 30. I have severe freakouts. Who do these children call when they know the police work for the men who are trying to have sex with them? Who do they call? No one. And these police are willing to show these children, we work for the men who are paying to fuck you. We don't care about your protection. We care about the men who are paying us to protect them to fuck you. It causes me freakouts. You're right. In my previous post, I was like, my wife has called the police. She said they told her they were coming. They're going to arrest me because I'm having a freak out. Who do these children turn to? And I'm freaking out in this repetitive sequence. I have a child reaching out to me. Who do I call? Can I trust the authority? And I'm like, no, you can't. My neighbors, Al and Jerry, made sure to make sure the local police and authority protect the men who want to have sex with you. You cannot call them. As somebody in the middle, who do you tell these children to turn to?
You have no one to turn to, and it's going to degrade your neuroplasticity and your psychology, so you'll end up into a repetitive cycle of being used.
Right?
Am I correct?
And yeah, absolutely. So the child who's reached out to me in this, whether it's real or not, the child who's reached out to me asked me, who do I contact? I'm in Pierce County. I'm being sexually exploited. Can I contact the Pierce County Sheriffs? No, you can't. My neighbors, Al and Jerry, made sure that the police protect the people who sexually exploit you. You can't. I mean, that's heartbreaking. It breaks my heart. But I have to tell a child, in all honesty, you cannot trust the Pierce County Police because they protect the perverts and pedophiles who set up the rape scenarios and abductions for the men who want to sexually exploit you. Now, is that not real? Or has that played out in my life? And am I speaking from facts? That has played out in my life. The Pierce County Authority and the FBI have helped men sexually exploit women and children in my life. They have helped men, adult men, have sex with underage children. The Pierce County Authority and the FBI in my local community have helped men have sex with underage children in my community. So as the middleman, can you tell a child to contact the Pierce County Authority? I can't.
I apologize. I zoned out for a bit, but I got the general gist.
Yeah, no, you know what I mean? I as the middleman, the person with the background check, or the person who doesn't work for the authority or the criminals or anybody, the person who's in the limbo, who only cares about the children. I cannot, in all honesty, tell children, yes, you can trust the Pierce County Authority. They protect you. All I can tell them in real life is the Pierce County Authority has helped protect the pedophiles and perverts who want to have sex with you. Protect yourself. Where does that leave the child? When I'm the middleman, when I'm literally the person with a background check who relies the information to the child, you cannot trust the local police and the FBI because they help the men who want to have sex with you. Where does that leave the child?
It leaves the child nowhere.
Exactly. And this is what's crazy, what people don't understand in my life. The local authority and the FBI made sure to set up abductions and rape scenarios so the local children who are in prostitution see for their own eyes. They can never turn to the local FBI. The FBI made sure children see they are willing to pay to have sex with children. That's phenomenal. In Pierce County, Washington, Local children saw the FBI is willing to do whatever it takes to make sure they can pay to have sex with children. That's fucking crazy. Where in the country does that exist where men can knowingly know publicly, I can make sure children know I want to have sex with them and get away with it? Where in the country does that exist?
Apparently everywhere.
Now you're getting somewhere. Apparently everywhere. And apparently everywhere because people like you and the rest of the community don't pay attention. The local FBI and the authority make sure women and children know they're willing to protect the men who want to have sex with them at all costs. That's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, think
Uh,
about that. Right? We're supposed to protect the women and children in our community at all costs. But in reality, we're showing them men who want to pay to have sex with you can pay to have sex with you, and there's no repercussions
there's
at
actually
all.
a famous case that recently happened with an internet, well, an influencer on YouTube or YouTube named Onision. He lives in Pierce County, and he was a pedophile grooming his, I think it was his adopted daughter or someone
Yeah, I know what you're
by
talking about.
having, yeah, it was disgusting.
But
And then he had huge breakdowns on camera, which was hilarious.
I want you to think about this, though. Why did he think it was okay? Where did he see the information that led him to believe that was acceptable?
He was in the Air Force, and probably because he had ties with local police and FBI.
I mean, listen to what you're saying. He had local ties with the police and the FBI in Pierce County that led him to believe it was okay to groom a child to have sex with.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I
Recently,
live, where I live, it's not out of the ordinary for grown men to groom 5 and 6 year olds to have sex with. It's okay. It is protected by the authority. And that is fucking disgusting. And I have absolute freakouts. Absolute beyond all means. I'm like, fucking come and get me. I don't care. You guys are disgusting. Come get me. It's disgusting that the local pedophiles can count on the Pierce County sheriffs to cover up the most heinous crimes against children. It's fucking disgusting. It's disgusting that men can rely on the military to protect them, to have sex with children. It's fucking disgusting. Where do I, as somebody in the middle, turn to?
you turn to a trusted resource. You say you do international background checks. Someone has to pass it eventually.
What, now we're getting somewhere. So my international background check to take care of sexually exploited women and children went through when I was 17 years old. I'm 43 years old now. You know how many years it's been since I've actually had somebody pass the background check for me to actually tell a child they can contact somebody?
No.
15 years. I've been on my own. I haven't had anybody pass a background check for 15 fucking years. I have to rely on contacts from 15 years ago.
You haven't had anyone pass the check since I was born. And
I
that's sad
haven't
to
had
think about.
anybody pass a check so they could have a child go to sleep without fear of being raped or pillaged in 15 years. Not an FBI agent, not a police officer. That's phenomenal. Not a police officer. Right? You can pass a check to be a police officer, but you can't pass a background check to have somebody tell you you can have sexually exploited women and children. That's phenomenal. I haven't had somebody in 15 years. In 15 years. Where do you send all these children? If the local police can't pass the check, if the local FBI can't pass the check, where do you send these children?
You don't have anywhere to send them except for the organizations that you have built with other people.
I have Children of the Night who exists in California outside of Washington, which is a
And
very limited resource. A very, very limited resource.
and then you have Exodus, I believe it was. The Exodus
Right?
Project.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about, I can send, because of the money and the resources, I can send 2 people a week to Children of the Night or Genesis Project. Do you think I have 2 children a week
No, you
in that
have much
situation?
more.
What do you do with the rest of the children who cannot rely on the local police and the FBI because they pass a background check to become a police officer, they pass a background check to become an FBI agent, but they don't pass a background check to not be a fucking pedophile? Where do you send those children?
You don't have anywhere to send them.
That's crazy. You can pass a background check to be a local police officer. You can pass a background check to be a local FBI agent, but you can't pass a background check to be a fucking pedophile. How did you become a police officer and FBI agent in the first place? Because your background check said you're a goddamn pedophile in the first place. That's fucking crazy. In real life, women and children in my community watch the FBI set up rape scenarios and abductions. Why? Because the men who are FBI agents could never pass a background check to protect women and children, but they could pass a background check to protect men. That's very eye-opening. Men in our community are FBI agents because they can protect a background check or they can pass a background check. I'm sorry. I'm getting flustered.
Do you think any of this could tie into something like Cicada 3303? It
There you go.
happens once a year, and, well, the
Right?
people who win it
Men,
never talk about it ever again.
exactly. Men who an FBI check pass an FBI check to protect men, but they will not pass a background check to protect women and children. That's phenomenal. You couldn't be an FBI check. You couldn't be an FBI if we ran your background check solely on protecting women and children. Well, how the fuck did you become an FBI agent in the first place? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right?
But
Right? You think about that. You can be an FBI agent if you protect men, right? But you fail protecting women and children, so we give you your fucking badge. As an FBI agent, we trust you wholeheartedly to protect the men who want to rape the women and children in your community. If we wanted to pass you as an FBI agent to protect the women and children from being raped and abducted and exploited, you'd never pass. How the hell does that work?
it's not supposed to work.
But it does. In Pierce County, Washington, in Washington State, you can be an FBI agent if your background check shows you're willing to sexually exploit women and children. That's phenomenal. You can be an FBI agent if you have sex with children. In Washington State, you can be an agent if you have sex with children. But
Hey, Martin,
it's crazy.
I don't mean to be rude, but I think you should go get a glass of water and calm down for a second. You're getting a bit
Oh,
amped up.
no, I agree with you. I'm quite upset. You know,
Still, it might help you a little bit, articulate and create
well,
more concise sentences.
here's the thing. In real life, the FBI came to my house when they knew women and children were at my house that they needed to protect, and they removed my wife from the situation, showing those children they could not trust the FBI. Why would they do that? Why would a member of the FBI come to my house when they know sexually exploited women and children are living or in my attic or under my house in my safe rooms? Why would the FBI come to my house knowing children are in my safe rooms, leave the children, and abscond with my wife, showing those children they could never trust the FBI? Whether I have water or not to better articulate my situation, why would they do that?
Because they're in a position of power where they can do so and no one's going to stop them.
But what is the benefit of knowing, hey, Martin's wife called us because they got children in their house, under their house, in their safe room. Martin or Heather called us because they got children in their safe room. So we're going to show up and we're going to take Martin and Heather, but leave those children, showing them they can never trust the FBI. So they can go back to the organizations who sexually exploited them, telling them, hey, the FBI did show up and they beat up the people who took care of us. They drugged the people who took care of us. They drugged the people we ran to. They tried to kill the people we ran to. What is the benefit for the FBI showing children they tried to kill the people those children ran to?